Good morning and a very warm welcome to the 13th edition of the CPM Management Insights Summit, proudly organized by CPM Sri Lanka. In just a few minutes from now, we'll be happy to welcome our dignitaries in our midst. Our chief guest and keynote speaker this morning is Mr. Sam Hanna, Director, Business and Corporate Development, School of Management, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. We're happy to welcome him and our other dignitaries who will be joining us in the hall very shortly and help us commence this morning's proceedings. Ladies and gentlemen, we'd like to very warmly welcome our chief guest for this morning. He is also our keynote speaker, Mr. Sam Hanna, Director, Business and Corporate Development, School of Management, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. And he's now being welcomed into the hall by our other council members of CPM Sri Lanka. So we say a very warm welcome to our chief guest and our dignitaries who are joining us. And as they join us into the hall, ladies and gentlemen, we will begin with the lighting of the oil lamp to signify an auspicious start to our proceedings. To do the honors of lighting the oil lamp, I'd like to once again welcome our chief guest, Mr. Sam Hanna, to do the honors. He's also going to be joined by Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala, founder and president of CPM Sri Lanka, Mr. Sandun Hapugoda, country manager, Sri Lanka and Maldives, MasterCard, Dr. Nirmal De Silva, head of technical sessions of the conference and governing council member of CPM Sri Lanka. We'd also like to invite the following governing council members of CPM Sri Lanka to join in: Mr. Kosala Disanaika, Mr. Hen Naika Bandara, Dr. Samantha Ratnaika, Mr. Roshan Kolas, Mr. Gayan Gunawardana, Dr. Ranga Jayakuri, Mr. Dulinda Pereira, Ms. Pramodya Senanaika, Mr. Sanjeev Gunaratna, the Chief Operating Officer of Stafford Motors Private Limited, Mr. Gihan Jayatilaka, Head of Finance, Laughs Lubricants Limited, Mr. Kamal Nilavera, who is Independent Consultant, and Mr. Dilshan R. Sukularatna, CEO of CPM Sri Lanka. Thank you very much to our dignitaries for doing the honors of lighting the traditional oil lamp. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, may I now request all of us to please rise for the national anthem of Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka, Namo, 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 Mata.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. You may please take your seats now. Once again, good morning to all of you and a very warm welcome to the 13th edition of the CPM Management Insights Summit, proudly organized by CPM Sri Lanka. Well, ladies and gentlemen, this year at our summit, we focus on the theme Reset, Reform, and Realign. Now, this theme captures the urgency of a strategic fresh start as Sri Lanka navigates a period of transformation. The theme calls on for leaders to rethink, reform, and realign systems, priorities, and practices to build resilience, ensure sustainability, and embrace future readiness. The CPM Management Insight Summit 2026 brings this vision to life and highlights the critical role of management in shaping a resilient and progressive nation. Over the course of today, we have in store for all of you a very inspiring lineup of visionary speakers and business leaders who will share with us their insights and also provide us with knowledge and strategies required to drive excellence in our particular sphere of work. So we do have lots to look forward to today, and so let's make the most of this opportunity to listen, to engage, as well as to learn. As we officially commence with our conference this morning, ladies and gentlemen, we'd also like to take the opportunity at the very outset to say a big thank you to our sponsors. Allow me now to acknowledge our sponsors for you. Our annual platinum partner is MasterCard. Our annual print media partners, Daily FT and Daily Mirror. Annual corporate partner is Technomedics Private Limited. Official lubricants partner, Laughs Lubricants. And our official mobility partner is Stafford Motors. I'd also like to tell you a little bit about Stafford Motors, ladies and gentlemen. They proudly represent nearly 5 decades as the sole authorized distributor of Honda in Sri Lanka. Honda remains one of the country's most preferred brands. It's known for its sporty design, performance, reliability, and exceptional after-sales service. Today, Stafford Motor is proud to extend exclusive offers on 2 of its most popular models. We have the iconic CRV 1.5-litre turbo petrol and the top-of-the-line HRV 1.5-litre hybrid at specially curated prices for CPM members and their affiliates. So for further details, including attractive maintenance and warranty packages, we invite you to connect with Stafford Motors sales consultants who are right here. You can connect with them during the session breaks. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, as we thank our sponsors, let's now take a look at a few videos from our sponsors on screen.
ඔබ දන්නවද ඔබේ එදිනෙදා ගෙවීම් මිලදී ගැනීම් වලදී මාස්ටර් කාඩ් එක ටැප් කරන හැම අවස්ථාවකදීම මාස්ටර් කාඩ් වෙතින් පිළිකා රෝගීන් වෙනුවෙන් ඉදිවන මෙම කරාපිටිය ට්‍රේල් පිළිකා රෝහලට පුංචි මුදලකින් දායකත්වය වන බව. අපිත් එකතු වෙමු මාස්ටර් කාඩ් එක්ක. ජීවිතයක් වෙනුවෙන් a tap for change.
உங்களுக்கு தெரியுமா, நீங்கள் மாஸ்டர் கார்டை டேப் செய்திடும் ஒவ்வொரு முறையும் புற்றுநோயாளிகளுக்காக கட்டப்படும் கராப்பிட்டிய ட்ரெயில் புற்றுநோய் வைத்தியசாலைக்கு மாஸ்டர் கார்டு சிறிய நன்கொடையை வழங்குகிறது என்று. மாஸ்டர் கார்டு ஒரு வாழ்வை முன்னிட்டு a tap for change.
Trail is a project born from compassion and brought to life by the colors of courage, trust. In 2011, we walked across the country, across Sri Lanka from the south to the north, to build the Thelipale Trail Cancer Hospital to bring hope and healing to the people of the north. In 2016, we walked across Sri Lanka again, this time from the north to the south, and the journey began towards building the Karapitiya Trail Cancer Hospital. And now in 2025, MasterCard has joined hands with Trail to complete this vision and to bring life-changing healing, treatment, hope to people who need it the most. Did you know that every time you tap your MasterCard, it makes a donation on your behalf towards the building of the Karapitiya Trail Cancer Hospital? Together, let's tap to change a life. A tap for change.
A single act can spark change and create hope for a better tomorrow. Because we hold the power to change a life. You came together when it mattered most, with the will to heal the lives of those battling with cancer.
Did you know that every time you tap with your MasterCard, a donation is made on your behalf to help build the new Karapitiya Trail Cancer Hospital? Come, let's tap to change a life. Tap for change.
Produced with the latest technology, Lars lubricants are perfectly suited to withstand our climate, dust and road conditions.
Love's lubricants for longer mileage and engineered for maximum performance.
A world-class engine oil optimized for our roads.
Love's lubricants.
Unlock more to life with the new Honda HR-V e-HEV. Sustainability that drives you further, while enjoying unparalleled versatility. Embrace style that unleashes your confidence. And always feel safe and in control. Go further and arrive in style with the new Honda HR-V e-HEV. There's more to life.
Honda CR-V. It's not just about capability, it's about possibility. You can get exceptional all-wheel drive control. You can see more of what's in front of you, or get more help sensing what's behind you. And that's just the start of it. Yes, you can. The Honda CR-V.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, those were a few of our sponsors and partners, and we say a big thank you to them for their collaboration with us, which is instrumental in driving the success of our summit. Ladies and gentlemen, leadership is not merely about positions or titles. Leadership is about purpose, vision, and the ability to inspire others to achieve more than they ever imagined. True leaders create impact. They empower people and they shape the future with courage and conviction. At CPM Sri Lanka, we believe that leadership goes beyond personal success. Leadership is about nurturing potential, driving transformation, and building a community of professionals who can lead with integrity and purpose. So our next segment, ladies and gentlemen, will reflect that journey. It showcases CPM Sri Lanka's commitment, passion, and belief in creating leaders who inspire change and make a difference. So, with that being said, I now invite you to turn your attention to the screen because we will now witness the story of CPM Sri Lanka, inspired to lead. Take a look.
Every nation rises on the strength of its leaders, not those who wait, but those who act, not those who follow trends, but those who define direction. At CPM Sri Lanka, we are inspired to lead. We lead minds to think critically. We lead professionals to act decisively. We lead researchers to turn knowledge into impact. We do not teach theory alone. We shape transformation. We lead our learning associates to become future-ready professionals. Ready for uncertainty. Ready for complexity. Ready to lead change. We lead our members to become strategic architects of growth. We lead conversations. We lead innovation. We lead governance. We lead ethical excellence. We lead enterprises to grow stronger. We lead communities to rise higher. We lead industries towards sustainability. We recognize excellence through the Best Management Practices Company Awards. We celebrate organizations that demonstrate world-class management practices and raise the standards of corporate Sri Lanka. We honor visionary leadership through the Management Leadership Excellence Awards. We recognize outstanding C-suite professionals whose decisions shape industries and inspire the next generation of leaders. We bring high-order thinking through the CEO Compact, an exclusive platform for C-level professionals. We bring together the nation's top decision makers to exchange insight, foresight, and leadership wisdom. And together with our corporate partners, we build powerful collaborations that strengthen the impact of every initiative and every national conversation we lead. Leadership also means responsibility at CPM Sri Lanka. We champion sustainability in action. We discourage unnecessary plastics, polythene, air pollution, and deforestation. We encourage the use of environmentally responsible alternatives across all our events and programs. We promote sustainable practices, not just in words, but through example. Through timely CSR initiatives, we contribute to the well-being of our communities, our environment, and our nation, because responsible leadership must serve both people and planet. Leadership is not inherited. It is built through discipline, through courage, through purpose. From aspiration to achievement to legacy, we lead the journey. We lead Sri Lanka forward. We lead with integrity. We lead with vision. CPM Sri Lanka, inspired to lead.
And there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. Can we please put our hands together as we appreciate everything that CPM Sri Lanka does? Yes, indeed. CPM Sri Lanka builds a community of inspiring leaders who can lead the transformation towards a bright and vibrant future for our nation. Well, talking about inspiring leaders, ladies and gentlemen, up next, it's our privilege to hear from the founder and president of CPM Sri Lanka. We're delighted to have the presence of Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala with us here this morning, and it's now our honor to invite him and address the gathering. So ladies and gentlemen, with your applause, please welcome on stage our founder and president, Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala.
Good morning to all of you. Let me welcome you to the 13th CPM Management Insight Summit 2026. Our chief guest and keynote speaker, Mr. Sam Hana, who is the Director, Business and Corporate Development, School of Management, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. We are very thankful to you for making your presence today. We also have our council members of CPM Sri Lanka, the Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka, many of them who are present here. Let me also welcome them, and also for all the support they have given for the success and organizing of our event today. Our CEO, Mr. Dilshan Arsukulratne, our invitees, ladies and gentlemen. Today, as you know, is a very important date, the 26th of March. First is that we are having the inauguration of the 30th CPM Management Insight Summit 2026. But also there is another important matter, that is the visit of the IMF delegation to discuss with Sri Lanka about the next tranche of funds for the country. So you should know that not only the officials of our country are under their supervision at the moment, but also what we are doing here as a very important event where the CPM Management Insight Summit is concerned. So today's topic is really something of great importance to all of us on the reset, reform and realign. Why I mentioned about the IMF is this is also their main theme when they gave us the funds in early 2023, where the IMF agreed to give $3 billion to Sri Lanka. And as per what we have seen, there is a certain reform that has to take place, and of course, the realignment that has to be done. If you really look at the reforms, because when money is given to anyone, there's really various conditions that are laid down, and you must be happy to note that Sri Lanka has been performing very well as per the conditions of the IMF, although maybe there are difficulties faced maybe by professionals, by maybe those who are working in the management field, and of course the people or the society. But as far as the IMF is concerned, we've been doing good, and this time they are taking up two areas, or two tranches, the fifth and sixth one, because as you know, when we are doing well, we always are hit by various unfortunate incidents. At that time, when the fifth one came, it was really the Ditwa, which really affected all of us. And then today, we are also under external shock, an external shock where the Middle East crisis, which has resulted in quite a lot of problems for all of us. So the most important thing is today we are talking of managers. You will all know that managers are people who make things happen. That's the most important thing. managers will not only be able to solve problems, but also to ensure that you are going in the right direction. So that's why the CPM is the Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka. The main reason why we were set up is to give the importance of the management, which is a multidisciplinary field. It is not restricted to one discipline, but to all disciplines. Supposing the political setup does not manage the country very well, then you see you will have problems. But if they are managing very well, the citizens will all be satisfied and they will be well looked after. So it's similar in any organization, any industry, the health services, the engineering services, accounting services, or any field, even in the education, higher education, everywhere. You may be from any profession, but if you do not have the profession of management, you will never be successful. So that's why one of the reasons that we are having today as our chief guest and keynote speaker, a director who is the head of the business school of the Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. This is very well known to Sri Lanka. Very many of our Sri Lankans have been there, and they have really gained quite a lot. And I'm very thankful for him being here. And I must also say that there have been some others who have been instrumental in getting you. First of all, our good friend, Mr. Kamal Nilavira, and of course, Dr. Kirti Pereira, who's currently with the business school at AIT. So they've been working very hard to get someone, because they will be able to give us really the importance, not only of management, but how the practical aspects could be carried out. Today, this conference is also, the summit will also bring together about 10 to 12 maybe experts who will be going to talk of the real best practices in management. Because tomorrow we are going to have the awards for the best practicing managers and companies. And here they will tell you how they have been really able to achieve success. So this is not something that you would be able to easily get, but you are really going to get from the best, or as was mentioned earlier, from the excellent companies, as to how they have really managed them and have come to the top. So you should be able to look at them and see as to how you are performing, what good that you can take from what they are saying, and then going ahead. So I must also thank our organizing committee. I think we have the chairman, Dr. Nirmal De Silva, and of course our founder and the person who has been really behind this earlier, Dr. Samantha Ratnayaka, who's been helping a great deal, and our council members who have been rallying around them and supporting them in all these matters. So for all these, as you see, to organize something, again, it's the management capabilities. Today, do not think that these things will automatically happen. Some of them think that it will automatically happen. But even to give the money to the people who are really in the low category of, say, poverty reduction or poverty alleviation, we give them certain grants, but those are just not coming either from the taxpayers' money or from the other means of tax of companies, that we have to find this money. So there are two main areas which have to be managed properly, managed well. I think the IMF has laid this down. One, of course, is the revenue generation. They have been satisfied with what has been happening on the revenue generation. Revenue generation can be in two ways. One is where you increase your revenue. Other one is where you cut down your losses. So if you look at state-owned enterprises, they've been able to cut down their losses or maybe to break even. So that's another way, because any losses they make will ultimately go to the government, and of course when you say government, it's the taxpayer or all those who are here, and also the public that is there. So that's what, and if, especially today with this problem that we have, one is the energy crisis. Today you can see queues again everywhere for the fuel that is there. Then if the electricity prices go up, you can see the impact it will have on the whole economy. So these are very important area, and I don't think even America would also have realized that the war is going to have serious repercussions on the economy. The Strait of Hormuz, where the ships are traveling, and actually the majority of the energy or the oil is being transported that way. So now they are, I think, prepared to negotiate. I think both sides should negotiate, because they see that the economy is affected. If the economy is affected, countries are affected, people are affected, your stomach is affected, everything is affected. So then people will really realize what is going on. Otherwise, they will not see anything. If you get everything to your hand, then you will think everything is okay. But once things are difficult, then only you see the value of it. To see the value of something, you must also run into difficulty. So that's why I think these conferences, these summits are being held, and also we are recognizing those who are doing very well and get them to come and give their best practices at our own summit. So these are some of the things that I thought that I will just mention to you. But as the leading management body in Sri Lanka, we are very happy that you are all supporting us, you are here in large numbers, and also that you will benefit, because that's the most important thing, that all those who come here, we have what is called the value creation. If you come to a conference, you learn something, you should really get some value. This value then, of course, will not only be passed on to you, but you have to pass it on to the organizations, your companies, so that then they will be able to really benefit from it and do extremely well. So I'm sure that although we are facing various crises, the real people who have brought prosperity to this country are the private sector. Public sector is there, but as you know, the foreign exchange has to be earned by them. Today we have been doing so well. You can see two beautiful cars. They have given the foreign exchange for them to import these vehicles. But government is not a fool, but government is collecting very high taxes. These taxes have helped them to reduce the deficit of the budget. So you can see how they are making use of the people who have the affordability to help the government to bridge their budget deficit. And of course, IMF will be very happy. You have reduced the budget deficit. We will give you the next tranche of maybe $300 million or whatever that is due. Maybe today it will be double the sum. So once again, let me thank all of you for all the support you have given, all our sponsors, and of course our staff and others who have been working very hard, and for your own cooperation, because you have come here, as I said, to get some benefit. And I'm happy our keynote speaker who's here, he will also be able to give you a lot, not only what is happening in Sri Lanka, but globally and overseas experience that he has. Then also in the various sessions that are there, you will really be able to find out, get a lot of sense about the Sri Lankan side. I must also see what MasterCard has done, a very, very good deal. Now this is something that we must remember, that we have to serve the society. Society is very important. If we are only thinking of ourselves, we will never succeed. Whatever we do, now that's what they are doing, where a part of the funds are given for a very important project of a cancer project. So this is the sort of thing that each company should do. When the CSR came in, a lot of the companies went into this, but today we have gone further, and of course, everyone is now talking not only once and for all, but it has to be a sustainable effort that we are putting in. So once again, let me thank everyone for your presence today. It's going to be a full day's work, and I do hope that you will be there to listen to all the good work that has been done by all our people who are in the best practices, which will really give you, you must take a notebook and write down everything so that when you go home, when you go to your office, you will remember, because sometimes everyone thinks that everything is there, but once they go back, they forget it. That's the normal way that people have, but now you have a computer, now you have your laptop, you have your mobile, everything is available, you record it or do it. So I'm sure that this 13th CPM Management Insight Summit will take you into a new era, especially at a time when we are facing global crisis. Earlier we had local crisis. That time the queues were due to a local crisis, but now due to a global crisis. So how we can overcome this global crisis and take Sri Lanka forward, and it's all in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you very much to Professor Lakshman R. Vatawala, our founder and president, for sharing an insightful address. And we do appreciate Sir's vision, passion, and dedication towards CPM Sri Lanka and building the next generation of leaders. Well, with that being said, we're privileged that joining us here today as our chief guest and keynote speaker is Mr. Sam Hanna. He is Director, Business and Corporate Development, School of Management, Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand. We're pleased that he will be here to share his valuable perspectives on the topic, leading through reset, reforming systems, and realigning strategy for a resilient future. With this introduction, let's now welcome our chief guest and keynote speaker on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Mr. Sam Hanna.
Good morning, everyone. It's nice to see a lot of people here supporting CPM and supporting this particular summit. I'll bring you greetings on behalf of Asian Institute of Technology and particularly the School of Management, who actually I'm working for. Just wanted to say that really I've only been working with the School of Management since the last 6 years. But prior to that, I was in corporate for a good period of my time, 36, 37 years. I know you think I'm only 25, but I'm actually older than that. So anyway, it's been an excellent journey for me, and I appreciate what life has actually helped me produce over the last few years. I was working with a company. I was interested when I saw the oil company here, which is great. I was actually global director for and CEO of Shell. Shell Global Lubricants, and based in several countries on behalf of Shell and working with Shell for quite some time, and then another company by the name of Honeywell and a few others in Fortune 500 class. And it's never really been my choice to work with Fortune 500 companies, but that's why I constantly keep on thanking the good Lord for opening up doors of opportunity for me. And of course, this is also another opportunity, which I'm really thankful for. And so, I'd like to say good morning, first of all, to Professor Lakshman. Thank you very much for your invitation, distinguished guests, respected leaders from across Sri Lanka, and Sri Lanka's public and private sectors, ladies and gentlemen. It really is truly a privilege to be here. Sri Lanka, this is not my first time to Sri Lanka, so I have visited here, and I was actually part of the NGO program and worked here for about a month and a half during the unfortunate tsunami that took place quite a long time ago. I was actually based in Batakalau, and so I worked with a lot of the Sri Lankan people, and we were all helping one another, and I fell in love with the country since then, and since then I've visited several times, but not in this capacity. It's truly, really a privilege to join you today. I was wondering, where's my Oh, thank you very much, sir. Okay, thank you. I've got some slides for you, that's why. So it's truly a privilege today to join you on the 13th CPM Management Insight Summit. And I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to the Institute of Chartered Professional Managers of Sri Lanka for inviting me to speak on such an important theme of leadership today. In fact, we were in the car and talking about leadership today and how it's changed. The theme of today's summit, Reset, Reform and Realign, captures something profound about the moment we are actually living in right now. I never thought I would actually talk about this. One day, as I got older, I thought there was just going to be constant improvement, constant growth, and of course we will see a better world. But now we're living truly in challenging times. The theme really does capture a lot of my passion, and I do get passionate about leadership when I'm talking or I'm lecturing in the university as well. Across the world, we're actually witnessing a period of significant transformation. Economies are evolving, technology is redefining industries. Expectations of leadership are actually changing. And institutions everywhere are being asked to adapt. Now, I'm going to be talking about adapting several times during my speech. So adapting faster than ever before. In such moments, incremental change is often not enough. Sometimes a situation demands something more fundamental. It actually demands a reset. Allow me to begin with a simple observation. Throughout history, the most significant transformations actually rarely occur during times of comfort. Actually, transformation takes place when we're actually experiencing a completely different and disruptive world that we're living in today. Moments when leaders realize that systems which created yesterday's success may no longer be capable of delivering tomorrow's success. In business history, we see that repeatedly. Companies that once dominated industries suddenly find themselves struggling to adapt to technological change. Governments discover that policies designed for a previous era cannot address modern economic realities. Institutions built for stabilities must suddenly learn how to operate in uncertainty. So they can defend the status quo or they can embrace transformation. Leadership thinker Peter Drucker, you may have heard of him, once said the greatest danger in times of turbulence is not the turbulence itself. It's actually acting with yesterday's logic. That insight captures the essence of the leadership challenge today. The danger is not change. The danger is failing to adapt to change. When we speak about reset, we're not speaking about abandoning everything that came before. Reset does not mean starting from zero. Reset means stepping back, reassessing our assumptions, and redesigning systems so they are fit for the future. In other words, reset is about renewal. And renewal has always been a central theme of leadership. Great leaders recognize that when it's time to move from maintenance to transformation, and today many organizations and indeed many nations are facing exactly that moment. It's this transformational, it's this shift that's actually taking place. And no doubt, it's happening in every country, including Sri Lanka. In my work with organizations and leadership teams across different countries, I've found that successful transformation almost always involves three core shifts. One is reforming systems. Two is realigning strategy. And three is rebuilding resilience. Let me explore these over the next few minutes. Every organization operates through systems, governance systems, decision-making systems, operational systems, finance systems, human resource systems. When these systems function well, organization performs efficiently. But over time, actually even these systems often accumulate complexity. Processes multiply, decision-making slows down, innovation becomes more difficult, and the organization gradually becomes less agile. Reforming systems, therefore, becomes essential. But reform does not mean destroying institutional knowledge. Instead, reform requires leaders to ask a series of honest questions. Are our systems transparent? Are they agile enough to respond to change? Do they encourage innovation, or do they discourage it? Do they empower people or constrain them? Leadership scholar Warren Bennis once said this: leaders, and this was actually mentioned just before, leaders are people who do the right thing, and managers are people who do things right. The challenge for modern organizations is to design systems that allow leaders to manage and to do both. To maintain operational discipline while also enabling strategic innovation. When systems align with strategy, organizations gain momentum. When systems contradict strategy, organizations become stuck. I'll give you just a little note about myself. When I was working with Shell in this region, I was posted to Malaysia first, and then to Thailand, and then to Shanghai in China. And my role was actually as CEO, but also the custodian of the strategic plan for Shell in the region. So, the second dimension of leadership reset is strategic alignment. So when I talk strategy, I don't just talk about an interesting word. I mean, it rolls off the top tip of our tongues, right? We talk about, strategy constantly, but is it just a business plan or is it a plan? Strategy is not just a business plan. The business plan falls under the umbrella of strategy. So the second dimension of leadership reset is strategic alignment. For many decades, strategy was based on the assumption that the future could be predicted with reasonable accuracy. Leaders developed 5-year plans, markets moved relatively slowly, industries evolved gradually, but today the pace of change has accelerated dramatically. Digital technologies are transforming industries almost overnight. Artificial intelligence is reshaping decision-making. Climate pressures are influencing business models. Global supply chains are evolving. And consumer expectations are shifting rapidly, faster than ever before. In this environment, strategy must become more, the same word again, adaptive. Instead of predicting a single future, organizations must prepare for multiple possible futures. So this approach requires strategic foresight. It requires scenario thinking. And it requires leaders who are comfortable navigating uncertainty. Let me just repeat this again. It requires scenario thinking. And it requires leaders who are comfortable navigating uncertainty. Let me just show you a slide here, if it does work. Hasn't? There we go. Okay. This is an example of headlines in newspapers in 2004. You can see here there's the Greece Summer Olympics, strongest earthquake in 40 years. United States launches the Mars Spirit rover. EU undergoes its largest expansion so far. So on and so forth. They even launched the Queen Mary ocean liner in that year, and even President George Bush was elected for the second time. So they were the headlines that consumed the world, and particularly in America in those days, in 2004. In 2004, our chairman in Shell invited 17 of the CEOs around the world, representing different areas in the company of Shell, and I was one of them in 2004. And this was for a 4-day conference behind closed doors in secrecy, because our chairman, Jeroen van der Veer, was extremely worried about where Shell was heading. We went to that conference in 2004, and we thought, as CEOs, we were going to get the biggest bonus ever. Because in those days, Shell registered the biggest and the highest profit in history. All oil companies in those days, in 2004, so we were the second highest behind some of those companies. So ExxonMobil was 242 billion, Shell, Royal Dutch, 235 billion. So we went into this room with our chests puffed up, high fives. I think we are going to get a good bonus. And I think this is why our chairman was actually calling us. There was only about a 37-second mention of this. Congratulations, guys, but we are here for something far more serious. Because the future of Shell is in doubt. The 100-year-old company, Shell Oil, Shell Company, a Royal Dutch, Anglo-Dutch company, was in jeopardy. Why? Because even though nobody was talking about environment in 2004, but it was predicted that something was actually going to happen. So we actually started to have some discussions in this meeting to try and move the pendulum a little bit. I'm trying to move this pendulum, but it's actually not moving. And we actually started to look at weak signals. What are the weak signals? Now, in those days, we didn't have the level of analytics in our organization. We had about 20 people sitting behind us while we're having these discussions in this closed room and taking down every bit of information on their slow computer. Our mobile phone is faster than the computers that we were using in 2004. And so they were taking down all of this information, and we tried to look at what are weak signals. Now, the reason why we're saying this is that because this is how we identified weak signals. Now, I know this is a technical table, but I just want to show you that red area is the zone, that purple area, which is under the dotted line, is actually the zone of highest opportunity and greatest risk. And this is what I go around organizations when I'm consulting or I'm talking to certain CEOs, is how do you identify it? When I talk about scenario planning, this is what we are talking about. Toyota, we're talking about Honda today, but also Toyota looks into a 40, 45-year scenario, right? The gentleman who created scenario planning and weak signals is a gentleman by the name of Pierre Wack. And he saved Shell from massive issues in the past, and actually, in actual fact, protected Shell. And he became an employee of Shell until he passed away several years ago, Pierre Wack. His son actually has taken on the mantle, and he's actually also talking a lot about scenario planning. So you will find that many companies around the world, successful companies around the world, are actually talking about scenario planning. Scenario planning, which is part of their strategy and their strategic thinking. So what are we trying to prove here? What we're trying to identify here is that anything above the dotted line, anything in that orange area, that zone above the dotted line, is actually the zone of diminishing returns. Everybody's in that arena. Everybody's competing in that red ocean. And so what we need to identify as leaders, what are the opportunities that actually face us today where we can step out of this same mentality as leaders, as managers, as organizations, and look at our product and look at what we have to offer. So this is a weak signals scenario plan. Now let me go to the next slide. Maybe somebody needs to turn this on because it's not coming on. This is what a Shell strategy looks like. It looks like a spaghetti bowl of lots of issues and lots of ideas. But it also identifies, determination of uncertainties, identifying what are the key trends. And I'm sure many of you do this in your organization. But one of the key things in this is that we actually identified short-term tactical. And as you can see at the bottom of the slide here, this is a short-term strategic decoy strategy. In other words, making our competitors think that this is the way that we're going, but we're actually working on something completely different. And so you'll see here that what we're talking about is not just short-term tactical, but we're actually also looking at long-term strategic. And the long-term strategic plan is, as a result, came out in 2020. Jeroen van der Veer, out of the 2004 meeting that we had, that strategic, very important strategic meeting, made a very clear statement. Now, when a company like Shell makes an announcement like that, while it's been in oil exploration for the last 100 years, it has to be serious. They want to become the largest electricity supplier in the world by the 2030s. And so we started to divest of some of our assets over the years in order to try and fund this particular strategy. So when I talk about strategy, when I talk about long-term, when we talk about scenario planning, that takes time. But it's building the foundation for organizations like Shell, for instance, and other organizations to ensure that success is almost guaranteed and takes into consideration some things that we don't even think about, like COVID, like wars, like conflict, regional conflict. So that's it. So former Intel Andy Grove, which I wanted to just mention something about him, captured this mindset perfectly when he said, only the paranoid survive. Only the paranoid survive. What he meant was not fear. What he meant was constant awareness of change. Leaders must continuously scan the horizon. They must ask, what technological shifts are emerging? What geopolitical trends could influence markets? What risks could disrupt our industry? and what opportunities are appearing that we may not really fully understand. That's where that weak signals might be, not necessarily in the headlines, but behind and under, somewhere out there, there's an opportunity for us to capture. Organizations that ask these questions early position themselves ahead of change. Organizations that ignore them often find themselves reacting too late. The third pillar of leadership reset is resilience. Resilience is a word we hear frequently today, but resilience is often misunderstood. Resilience is not simply the ability to survive crisis. True resilience is the ability to adapt, recover, and grow stronger after disruption. Resilient organizations share several characteristics. First, they have clear purpose. Purpose provides direction during uncertainty. Second, they invest in people and leadership development. Organizations that invest in talent build long-term capability. Third, resilient organizations cultivate learning cultures. They encourage experimentation. They treat mistakes as opportunities for improvement, and they continuously evolve. Finally, resilient organizations maintain strong ethical foundations. Trust is the cornerstone of sustainable leadership. Without trust, reform becomes difficult. Without trust, strategy loses credibility. But with trust, transformation becomes possible. Allow me to just share a simple framework that helps illustrate how these elements actually do connect. I'll call this the reset pyramid. At the foundation of the pyramid is purpose. Purpose answers the most fundamental question an organization must ask. What is it? Why do we exist? What value do we create for society? When purpose is clear, decision-making becomes easier. Above purpose is systems and governance. These structures ensure accountability, transparency, and operational discipline. The next is strategy. Strategy, right, is actually implemented successfully. And finally, at the top of the pyramid, it's innovation and future readiness. This is where organizations continuously reinvent themselves. When these 5 levels align, organizations become resilient. When they become misaligned, organization struggles. Leadership reset, therefore, involves ensuring alignment across the entire pyramid. Let me talk a little about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka today stands at a pivotal moment. Periods of national challenge are never easy. But history shows that moments can also become catalysts for renewal. Many countries that faced economic or institutional challenges emerged stronger after reform. They strengthened governance, they improved transparency, they invested in leadership development, and they built systems capable of supporting long-term growth. Sri Lanka has the opportunity to do exactly the same. But such a transformation does not occur automatically. It requires leadership in government, leadership in business, leadership in civil society, and leadership in professional management. This is why organizations like CPM Sri Lanka play such an important role. Professional managers translate strategy into execution. They build the systems that allow organizations to perform effectively. They ensure accountability, and they develop the next generation of leaders. Ultimately, the most difficult part of transformation is not systems, it's mindset. I'm actually in the completion of finishing my very first book it's taken me 4 years to write, and it's all about mindset. It's mindset. Organizations can change structure relatively quickly, but change thinking often takes longer. Leaders must therefore cultivate curiosity. They must be willing to question assumptions. They must encourage open dialogue. They must listen to diverse perspectives, and they must foster environments where innovation is possible. In other words, leaders must move from closed thinking to open thinking, from certainty to curiosity, from control to collaboration. This shift is essential for organizations navigating complex change. Leadership during stable times is important, but leadership during periods of transformation is absolutely critical, because uncertainty can create hesitation, and hesitation can delay progress. In such moments, leaders must provide three things. First, clarity of direction. Second, confidence in the journey. And third, commitment to values. People will support change when they trust their leadership. People will support change when they trust the person. And trust is built through transparency, integrity, and consistent action. Some years ago, I was actually speaking with a senior leader who had spent decades building businesses across different countries. He actually comes from the UK. At one point in the conversation, he said something that stayed with me. He said, every generation of leaders eventually faces a moment when the future of their institutions is tested. Sometimes that moment comes during economic crisis. Sometimes it comes during technological disruption. And sometimes it actually comes when societies ask for a new kind of leadership or a new direction. But in those moments, something remarkable happens. A new generation of leaders steps forward, not because the situation is easy, but because the situation demands leadership. History is full of such moments. Rebuilding the nation after economic hardship, companies reinventing themselves after disruption, institutions reforming themselves to meet the expectations of a new era. And when we look back at those moments, years later, we often realize something important. The leaders who shaped the future were not necessarily the most powerful. They were the ones willing to take responsibility when it mattered most. So, as you leave this summit today and return to your organizations, I encourage you to ask three simple questions. I don't know whether they'll show up or not, but I'll let you know. They're the three questions. What must we reset? What must we reform? And what must we realign for the future? Let me repeat again. What must we reset? What must we reform? And what must we realign for the future? Because the future does not belong to those who wait for change. It will never belong for those who wait for change. The future belongs to those who have the courage to lead it. Thank you.
We invite our chief guest and keynote speaker to please remain. First of all, we say a big thank you to Mr. Sam Hanna for a wonderful and insightful session. May I now invite the following dignitaries to join us on stage and help us present a token of appreciation to our chief guest and keynote speaker. We'd like to have the presence of Professor Lakshman R. Vatavala, Mr. Kosala Disanaika, Mr. Hednaika Bandara, Dr. Samantha Ratnaika, Mr. Roshan Kolas, Mr. Gayan Gunavardhana, Mr. Dulinda Pereira, Ms. Pramodya Senanaika, and Mr. Dilshan Arsukularatna. We invite our dignitaries to join us on stage as we take this opportunity to present a token of appreciation to our chief guest and keynote speaker this morning, Director, Business and Corporate Development, School of Management at the Asian Institute of Technology, Thailand, Mr. Sam Hanna. We have the token being brought forward right now and presented. We truly appreciate the insights shared by our chief guest and keynote speaker this morning, and I'm sure we go back with plenty of food for thought. And so as we present this token, ladies and gentlemen, can we please put our hands together and appreciate our chief guest and keynote speaker this morning, Mr. Sam Hanna. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here in Sri Lanka. I'd like to invite all of our dignitaries to please remain on stage, because up next, we would also like to acknowledge and appreciate the technical sessions head of our summit. I'd like to invite Dr. Nirmal De Silva to please join us up as we present this next token of appreciation to you. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's hear your applause for Dr. Nirmal De Silva, the technical sessions head of this summit. We truly appreciate all of the hard work and effort that has gone into curating the conversations that we have, thanks to the help of our technical sessions head. We also take the opportunity to invite a few of our sponsors now on stage as we appreciate their contribution. We'd like to invite a representative from our annual platinum partner, MasterCard. Let's invite a representative from MasterCard to join us up. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together. We have Mr. Sandun Hapagoda, Country Manager, Sri Lanka and Maldives, MasterCard. A big thank you for joining us as our annual Platinum partner. And of course, please do remain on stage because we have a group photograph at the very end. Up next, we would like to invite our annual corporate partner, Technomedics Private Limited. Let's put our hands together. Mr. Hapagoda, we invite you to remain on stage. So we have our annual corporate partner also joining us up. This is Technomedics Private Limited. We say a big thank you to Technomedics for their participation, as well as our annual corporate partner. We have a token of appreciation to present to each of our sponsors. So as we say thank you to MasterCard, we have our next token presented to Technomedics Private Limited, our annual corporate partner. Ladies and gentlemen, let's put our hands together as we appreciate their support. Technomedics Private Limited. Up next, we'd like to appreciate Stafford Motors. As you know, Stafford Motors is our official mobility partner, so we'd like to invite a representative to please join us up and accept this token of our heartfelt appreciation. We have Stafford Motors also presenting two lovely vehicles at the back of the hall, so please take some time to go and check out those lovely vehicles. So with that, let's put our hands together for our official mobility partner, Stafford Motors. Also, our official lubricants partner, we have Laughs Lubricants with us. We'd like to invite a representative to now please join us up on stage and accept this token on behalf of CPM Sri Lanka as we acknowledge your presence as our official lubricants partner of our Management Insights Summit. Ladies and gentlemen, your applause for Laughs Lubricants, our official lubricants partner. And as we recognize our sponsors, we invite every single person on stage to please remain because we will have a group photograph once again. So perhaps we can align ourselves on stage for this group photograph. A few people on this side as well, so we can have a well-balanced photograph. So right now on stage, we have our dignitaries, including, of course, our chief guest and keynote speaker, Mr. Sam Hanna. We have our technical sessions head of the summit, Dr. Nirmal De Silva. Also acknowledging our sponsors, including our annual platinum partner, MasterCard, our annual corporate partner, Technomedics Private Limited, official mobility partner, Stafford Motors, and our official lubricants partner, Laughs Lubricants. We invite them to please stay on for a couple of moments as we have our videographer and photographer capturing this very, very important moment as we acknowledge the various stakeholders of the 13th edition of the CPM Management Insights Summit. We give another second for our photographer right there, and as our dignitaries stand on stage, ladies and gentlemen, can we please hear your applause as we acknowledge their contribution towards the success of this wonderful summit. Thank you very much, gentlemen. You can feel free to take your seats. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen on stage. Well, before we move ahead, ladies and gentlemen, we would also like to acknowledge that today, in spite of the uncertainties of the external environment, we have in the audience close to 500 participants. Now, that is an overwhelming number, I'm sure you'll agree, and we're truly delighted to have all of you joining us here because your presence today at such a crucial moment when so many things are going on in the environment, your presence shows us that not only is the relevance of this conference so important, but also the conversations that we're going to have. We are truly grateful for your enthusiasm and coming here in huge numbers. So let's make the most of this wonderful summit that we have lined up for you. Well, up next, before we wrap up the inauguration ceremony this morning, it's time now for us to get a deeper insight into the various conversations and the discussions that will unfold at our summit today. So to give us the overview of the technical sessions and provide us a few closing remarks at the end of the inauguration session, I'd like to now invite on stage the head of technical sessions and governing council member of CPM Sri Lanka. Let's put our hands together as we welcome Dr. Nirmal De Silva.
Few months ago, I was spending 3 days at the Four Seasons Hotel in Dubai on a routine strategy consulting session for a Fortune 500 company on an M&A activity. At the third day, the global CEO comes to me and says, during breakfast, Nirmal, before we take this decision, I want a little bit of stability in the region. I want the dust to settle. Back of the mind, I knew the dust will never settle. The reason is the dust is not a short-term inconvenience anymore. It's the new terrain. Fast forward that now, the same company lost $150 million of an opportunity because they wanted stability. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Ayubowan. It's indeed a great honor and a privilege to speak a few words as the technical session chair of the 13th Management Insight Summit of CPM Sri Lanka. This morning, the CPM team has put across an agenda where in the morning session, we are going to talk about the 3 R's that you heard before, which is, in my humble opinion, the blueprint for survival and growth. And this afternoon, we are going to showcase the best practices of our own Sri Lankan companies on how they are utilizing the blueprint for survival and growth. So what is these 3 R's? Reset, reform, and realign. Put it very simply. Reset is where we let go of our traditional thinking or outdated thinking. We let go of systems, processes, and workflows that will not work anymore. What is reform? Reform is basically tinkering on what we can salvage, what is critical. And realignment is where we become relevant and we become forward-thinking. And if I borrow the words of MasterCard, our platinum sponsor today, hopefully at the end of the summit, we can tap you all for change. I see Sri Lanka in entrepreneurial thinking sense as a startup. A startup which has immense potential to be a game changer. But just like any startup, we lack funding. We lack resources. We need to convince investors that Sri Lanka has a great story. And this is where all of us need to navigate change to be relevant. If we zoom out to the global context, the world is grappling with 4 important imperatives. Number 1, we have a fractured geopolitical context where traditional diplomacy is often ignored and the power play of being superior between the have and the have-nots is the way to play forward. Number 2, climate resilience is no more choice, is the only way forward, something that we all need to be responsible on. Number 3, the 4th industrial revolution is accelerating at a growth stage where regulation is becoming a challenge. And lastly, AI and other technologies are fast changing the dynamic landscape. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make a bold statement today. AI is not coming after your jobs or your titles. AI is coming after your excuses. The excuses of not willing to change, the excuses of not willing to use data, the excuses of not willing to reset, reform, and realign. So what does it mean for leaders today? As the previous keynote speaker and the chief guest mentioned, let me also take the opportunity to give you 3 things that leaders require today. Number 1, leaders need to lead with impact. It can be a company, it can be a country, it can be even your own household. We need to lead with impact. Number 2, leaders need to be more agile. Agile in whatever we think, whatever we do, and whatever we leave for the future. Last but not the least, leaders need to transform boldly so that you can own your decisions for greater survival and growth. I am this morning cognizant on the fact that 500 of you have turned up and you deserve a much needed tea or coffee break. And I am the only barrier between that at 10:30 in the morning. So I am going to limit the set of words that I've been given. I've been privileged to talk about. But let me conclude with a call of action. Tomorrow morning, when you rock up back again to your workplaces and to your seats, with the daily firefighting that you will have to deal with, hopefully this management summit put up by CPM, Sri Lanka's most premier and undisputed institute for the management fraternity, hopefully you'll take away some key insights, key learnings in which you can implement to capitalize on the opportunities which will be there. Every crisis in the world will give you opportunities. And if you are still struggling in terms of finding what those opportunities are, there's one opportunity I can give you to take home. And that is the opportunity to reset, reform, and realign. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you very much to Dr. Nirmal De Silva for giving us a comprehensive and insightful look into the technical sessions that will follow, and I'm sure that gives us all a very clear idea about the direction and the depth of the conversations we're about to have at the summit. With that being said, we're coming to the conclusion of our inauguration session, but very shortly we will begin with session 2. Before that, of course, tea break awaits us. I'd like to inform you that tea is served on either side of the hall, so you can help yourselves to the side that is closest to you, and also, of course, make the most of the wonderful offerings that our sponsors have. Go there, check it out, and see what they have to showcase for you. We'd also like to inform you that our next session will begin at 11 a.m. sharp, so please make sure you're back in your seats by 11. Until then, enjoy your tea, and we'll see you soon at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much.